She's a 26-year-old girl at her workplace. Rena works for the welfare of people with Parkinson's disease. As you can see, public speaking is a huge component of her work. But if I take you back in time to when Rena was 13 years old, Rena was mortally petrified of holding the mic in her hand. What happened in between is a profound statement on what yoga is, what yoga can be, not only for Rena, but for each one of us sitting here. When Rena was 13 years old, she came to me and expressed a desire to work with her fear of public speaking. We worked with certain techniques involving breath, involving visualization, which Rena went on to practice in her own time. And in a few weeks from then, when she had to speak at a public platform, Rena spoke so confidently that she was recognized as one of the best speakers of the evening. That is Sri Aurobindo, the famous poet and visionary from Pondicherry. Sri Aurobindo defines yoga as accelerated evolution. So by this definition, anything that we do to speed up the rate at which we grow, to become more today than what we were yesterday, to break free of our limitations, would come under the umbrella of yoga. And going by this, Rena certainly did yoga, and she did it well. I'm here today to talk to you about yoga or accelerated evolution through the portal of Hatha Yoga. So as you can see, Hatha Yoga consists of certain postures which we hold for a certain length of time. It involves certain breathing techniques, certain techniques of meditation and concentration. And the point is, what does this have to do with accelerating our evolution? Let me explain with an example. I was once taking a class for 16-year-olds in which they all had to hold the most difficult poses they had learned for long periods of time. And then I asked them what their experience was. So one boy said that he got very angry, he got irritated. A girl said that she felt very terrified and fearful, as if something in her body would break. And a third girl said that she felt sadness and self-pity. Why am I going through so much pain? So when stresses hit, the first boy will react to it with anger. The second girl will react to it with fear. The third girl will react to stress with sadness, self-pity, or possible depression. So here's what. When we hold a pose and we stretch in it, we experience physical pain. And as a reaction to the physical pain, we'll experience an emotional reaction. If we can transform and transcend that reaction in a pose, somewhere in day-to-day living also our reactivity is less. And this is the most fundamental teaching that I've received from my yoga teacher, Jahangir Palkhiwala, that our attitude to an asana somewhere translates into our attitude to day-to-day living as well. In the year 2000, I discovered that the ICSE Board of Examination, the 10th standard examination, one of the most popular boards in India, was offering yoga as an elective or an optional subject. But in a country like India, which is the homeland of yoga, only 2 students from the entire country had opted for it. So with the help of my colleagues, the principal, the school I was teaching in then, we offered yoga as an elective subject. 12 students came forward that year to do the yoga, and the numbers have been increasing ever since, not only in the schools where I teach, but all over India. I'm so happy to share with you that from the year 2014 to 2015, there has been an increase of 25% in the number of students who are appearing for the yoga, for the subject of yoga in the ICSE board exam. Now let me come to the heart of my talk today. What are some of the problems the youth face, and how could yoga be an effective and creative way to face those challenges? If we go back in time to the Gurukuls of ancient India, the centers of learning that ancient India had, When a student went there, one of the most fundamental things the student was taught was self-inquiry. He was taught to explore his thoughts, his emotions, discover the different threads that make up his composite being, and everything else was built around this as the foundation. Today, our education system has gone so far away from this that we are taught everything about the world outside, but really so little about the world inside us. As a consequence, we tend to look for ourselves in the wrong places. We look for ourselves in how we appear in people's minds. And what can be more defeating than this? Because no matter how hard we try, how can we ever control what people think of us? What we really can control is how we exist within ourselves. What we can control is our experience of being. And yoga time and again points out to us that the real parameter of self-worth or self-definition is not in how we appear, but in how we feel. It exists in our being. If you were to go to a really good Hatha Yoga class and you were doing asanas, you'd be reminded again and again, don't do an asana in a way that you look good to people. Do it in a way that you'll feel good about it inside you. But because we've moved so far away from this line of thinking, there's an epidemic of low self-worth. And all of us are living somewhere or the other, at least many of us, if not all, are living somewhere or the other with the misery of not really liking ourselves, but pretending to the world that we feel great. And because of this low self-worth, we amble into things like drug addiction, anorexia, sometimes self-mutilation, just in a bid to find our way out of the misery of not really liking ourselves. Now, because yoga so strongly points out the right parameters of self-definition to us, it's sometimes easier to come out of these things like drug addiction, etc., when we turn to yoga. I'm very proud of two young students of mine. They are girls in their 20s who both had fallen prey to a very severe case of anorexia, but without any medical help, just by turning to a resource which they found within themselves with the help of yoga, they battled this illness and they triumphed over it. Now, apart from lack of faith in ourselves, the education system does little to give us faith in existence. We are always scared about the randomness of life. We are scared of being hit by this or hit by that. And we are always looking for that elusive security which will finally make us feel safe. In schools, in colleges, we are taught about the laws of magnetism, gravity, thermodynamics, but we are taught so little about the laws that govern our existence. The famous space scientist Wernher von Braun says that to those who do not understand the laws of the universe is hostile. But to those who understand these laws and obey them, the universe is friendly. What are these laws? I'm talking about something as basic as the God intelligence or grace working in our midst. Nobody taught me about it in school in rational, logical terms that appeal to me. But fortunately for me, my Vedanta teacher Partho did. He asked me to personify this God intelligence as a giant who's 1,000 stories tall. Now, if I'm standing in front of this giant, I will probably just see the giant's big toe, and I will not even recognize it as a big toe because of the dimensions and the proportions. To me, it will appear to be a flesh-colored wall. And if I'm somebody who believes only in tangible things, nothing in me will be inclined to believe that there's this huge, powerful entity behind this wall. Now, because of his height, he can see a lot more than what I can. And if he sees something destructive hurtling towards me, he may pick me up and put me in a safe place. But because of the limitation of my vision, I can't see that thing coming towards me, nor can I feel the giant's hand. To me, this displacement will seem random. It will fill me with anxiety, with fear. But in those moments, if I can invite into my thinking a contemplation of this giant intelligence, If I could give faith, the faith that Sri Aurobindo talks about when he says that whether it appears good or evil to men's eyes, only for the good the secret will can work. If I could give this kind of faith a chance, then maybe I will actually experience the truth of the words that faith is believing in something you don't yet see, and the reward for faith is seeing it. The youth also face huge amounts of academic pressure. Again, we confuse self-worth with that mark on paper, and as a result, we find that while we are preparing for exams, we have panic attacks. Very often when we are writing the paper, we blank out. That is Isha. Isha suffered from all these symptoms while writing for her 10th standard prelim exams. Her hands would shake, she would cancel and recancel. And despite being a very intelligent girl, her performance in her prelims did not really match her intelligence. She turned to yoga. She started practicing certain meditation techniques, certain breathing techniques on a daily basis, and particularly before she sat to write her paper. Also, during those arduous long hours of studying, whenever she'd feel anxiety creep in, she would release it by doing a few Surya Namaskars or sun salutations, or jump up in the headstand Shirshasana, which was a personal favorite. I'm so happy to share with you that in her final ICSE board exam, Isha fared head and shoulders above what she did in her prelims. Even in the domain of health, yoga has a host of benefits to offer us. That is Vikram doing the Urdhva Dhanurasana, or the full back bend. Vikram holds this pose on a daily basis for 3 to 5 minutes. As a little boy, Vikram suffered from severe attacks of asthma. He found that as he started practicing yoga and particularly holding this pose for a length of time, his asthma attacks started diminishing. And the last time I met Vikram told me that he hadn't used his asthma pump in years. That is Cyrus at the center holding a walking stick. Cyrus says that sports is his life. And once when he was playing football, he got a severe injury to his knee. And let alone playing at the age of 13, Cyrus had to walk with the help of a stick. Physiotherapy didn't really help, and a surgery with uncertain consequences seemed to be the only answer. That's when he decided to give yoga a real shot. We worked on different techniques that yoga had to heal his knee, which he practiced on his own as well. And in a few months, not only was he walking without a stick, he was back on his football field. Next, I want to share with you the story of Sabha. Sabha came to me when she was in her late teens. Sabha was born with a congenital condition called von Willebrand disease. In this, there is excessive bleeding, and as a result, Sabha had to take hormonal tablets to curb her menstrual flow, which came with their own side effects, but that was the least of it. What other teenagers take completely for granted, like going to college regularly or partying with their friends or just having fun, none of this was really so easily available to Sabha. Because while traveling, if she got the slightest push or jostle, she would suffer from an internal bleed, and she would have to rush home to nurse that bleed till it healed. So her hematologist, Dr. Farah Jijina, sent her to me in a bid to alleviate the mental stress caused to her by her illness. But yoga had so much more to give her. After practicing some months of whatever she learnt in yoga, she found that she didn't need to take those hormonal tablets anymore. Her internal bleeds diminished so much in frequency and intensity that Sabha travels long distance now on a daily basis to attend to a job that she loves. You may be curious by now to know what exactly did Cyrus do to heal his knee, or what did Sabha do to bring balance to her blood disorder. Much as I'd like to share this with you, there are time constraints, but if you're really curious, I urge you, find a good yoga class in your vicinity, a class that gives you much more than a physical workout, and find out for yourself. I also suggest that if you're keen on yoga in terms of the accelerated evolution that we spoke about, you read certain books on a daily basis which would help you to explore yourself. I recommend authors like Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, Eckhart Tolle, Thich Nhat Hanh, Deepak Chopra. And if you want to explore yoga through the lens of science, I highly recommend The Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra. Thirdly, I suggest that every day you make about 10-15 minutes and just unplug. What I mean is put away your mobile, put away your computers, music, just sit with yourself and really get in touch with what you're thinking, what you're feeling, how your breath is. Now, I know this sounds incredibly boring to you, but I can tell you from experience that if you really sit like this, you'll be giving your inner wisdom the message that you're ready to hear it speak. And you'll be surprised at how it will speak. You'll find that just by sitting with yourself, the most incredible creative solutions will pop into your head. I once read on the net that botanists have found that if there's ever a toxic plant growing in nature, very close by, invariably there'll be another plant which will provide an antidote to the poison of the first plant. Each one of us is that piece of land that gives soil to both the plants. If we have a poisonous way of being that makes us unhappy recurrently, we also have the antidote to that poisonous way of being within us. And yoga is a beautiful way of finding our way to this antidote. I sometimes hardly recognize the person that I used to be before I came to yoga. And I really don't feel I'm exaggerating when I say that yoga really did give me my life. So that is the Mother from Pondicherry, Sri Aurobindo's spiritual collaborator. Her address to the youth: you are the hope, you are the future. Keep always this youth, which is the faculty to progress. For you, the phrase, "it is impossible," will have no meaning. Thank you very much.